across the 40, stays on his feet, cuts it back. Marion Brown, another kickoff return for a touchdown.
Look out! There goes two! No flags! Touchdown!
Howard in trouble!
Incomplete! And the Michigan Wolverines will shock the college football world.
Time coming off. Howard's going to run for it. Time runs out. And that'll do it.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon. They storm the field at Austin. He handed it off to Love, who stays on his feet. Love is in the end zone. Notre Dame has won the Orange Bowl, and Marcus Freeman is taking them to the championship game.
And Notre Dame would subsequently lose that game. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Week Zero podcast. My name is Josh. Today, I am hosting in lieu of Connor, who owes me a little bit of money. And when they do that, they end up in trunks and parked up in the holler. People take care of them. Anyways, joining me today are my good friends Ryan Rebell and Maze Madman himself, Phil.
What's going on?
Good to have you boys here tonight.
It's good to be back, man. Week 0, this feels like, freaking home, away from home. It's been a minute since I was here,
Mm-hmm.
It's been a
Hopefully
minute.
we're a little less contentious than your recent videos.
Yeah. Bro, hey, listen. It's a madhouse over there. Yeah, no, seriously, this is a welcome reprieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, how you been, buddy?
Good, man. Well, a little depressed today because, I have no more sports to watch besides, I guess Notre Dame baseball, but Notre Dame lacrosse, the 2-time defending national champs, got upset today by the Penn State Nittany Lions. And gave up a 12-6 lead in the fourth quarter. So that was fun. But yeah, now I got the dog days of summer. Looking forward to football as we are, 14 Saturdays away now? So
you say that, it sounds like it's forever away. Man. But yeah,
it does.
Yeah, we are certainly in the stride of talking season. We've got transfer portal, info and all that kind of stuff going on. But today we're going to preview our oh my goodness, we still have the old ticker for the
we do.
All right. Today we're going to preview a way too early. I mean, extremely uncalled for even. CFP playoff brackets. Yeah. Now, each one of us has submitted at least I did a rankings. I did a top 12 rankings, but each one of us has submitted a playoff bracket, and I have some explaining to do because I forgot Notre Dame existed.
Damn it.
That's my fault. My bad, Ryan.
So we're not relevant yet because Josh forgot.
Right. I'm sure I'm going to have some explaining to do, too. I left a prominent program off my list.
I wonder who that program could be.
Could that program possibly be the odds favorite to win next year?
Might just be the odds-on favorite to win.
All right.
That's
So, the first one we'll look at is Lucas. Lucas is not here. He's dealing with, some personal stuff.
Prayers to that family.
Prayers to him and his family. They are going through it right now. But, yeah, I mean, he dropped his in. It's going to look a little different than the other ones we have just because, I didn't have a lot of time to put these together. But so this is what Lucas has got so far. Obviously, UNLV, the Jupiter 5 champ, Texas winning the SEC, Clemson winning the ACC, Oregon repeating as Big Ten champs, and Colorado, which was an interesting pick. And Lucas, DM'd me saying he thinks that he's going to get heavily criticized for that pick.
As he should be. They lost their best 2 players in the draft.
So what are you guys' thoughts on this, on these rankings?
I think the Colorado pick is way too high. I think I have them on in my top 12 as well. So we are of similar thinking. But 1 through 3, I don't think is very different. Like I flipped Texas and Oregon. Actually, no, I flipped. So Texas is number 1 for me. I'm not. Let me not go through mine, but this is not bad. I don't know about Alabama at all. I'm gonna be real with you. I think Notre Dame is too low. UNLV, man, that is strong. But I can see it.
Quality program.
Program.
Salute in the comments. My guy West Quad and Bomb are both here. Shout out to them.
Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Gentlemen, salute. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so Colorado's a little left field. It's a little populist for me. Just because we're talking about a team that went 8-4 last year, wasn't even close to sniffing the playoff. I guess they were close, but then they got blown out by BYU.
Yeah.
Alabama being in there, not sure if I have them in mind. I don't remember if I did or not. Maybe rounding out, but I don't like it. I do like that they're a lower seed. Or I mean a higher seed. I don't know how we got whatever. They're 9.
Right.
I like that they're towards the bottom of that 12. Ohio State being towards the bottom of that 12 is surprising to me, and I don't really have a problem with anything else here. I just don't think the SEC is gonna shake out to Texas, Georgia, and Alabama being the top 3 teams.
I also find one team you guys didn't mention, that kind of like an eyesore to me, is Iowa State. That one is one that's an interesting one for me because they're returning a lot of production from last year, but they're a team that when they played top 25 teams, they got drumrolled. You know, you go back to that Big 12 championship against Arizona State where, it seemed like Scattaboo was running and had like all the space in the world in that game. I don't know about that one. It does feel like if this happens, we have 2 quality matchups in the first round again, and then 2 matchups that are like absolute belt. But I mean, it is interesting. You get the rematch of the national championship from last year in the first round with both teams, losing a lot, coming this playoff a lot more younger, 2 new quarterbacks. And then you got obviously Alabama, Penn State, which I think would be an intriguing matchup. I mean, overall, I think Colorado's the one that's kind of like a little high, but I mean, in my way too early, I had them there. And then, I kind of moved off of them, but yeah. So, all right, let's get to, let's see, we'll go to Connor since Connor's not here.
Let's go to the people who can't defend themselves. Let's go.
Yeah.
So he's a little, I'll start off on this one. I feel like he's a little high on Tennessee. But who knows? They might be better without Nico. Again, he's got Alabama and Penn State kind of in the same place. Man, 4 SEC teams? That's a little nuts.
Yeah. Phil, what are your thoughts?
So early on, his top 3 is exactly how mine is, I believe. Actually, no, I have Clemson at 2, I believe. I don't know. I don't remember. I think I have Clemson at number 2. No. I have Oregon 2. So that's exactly mine, that top 3. After that, though, Miami is intriguing. I will admit that. I believe I have them in mind. I agree with Josh that Tennessee, I don't have them in my top 12. He seems to be high on them. I again have to say Notre Dame is low. I would put Notre Dame in the top 4 if they could be in the top 4. Unfortunately, they can't. Or fortunately, depending on what side of the coin. And then Army. This one's also intriguing. This Army one is very intriguing. I don't see Georgia being a top 5 team this season. But I could be wrong. And again, Alabama is the other question mark for me. The biggest question mark for me, though, Tennessee. And I do feel like Notre Dame is getting a little disrespected here.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think it's going to be almost impossible for Notre Dame to get a 5 seed, unless they have like a tough schedule and they just absolutely give everybody belt to ass and look really impressive doing it. Because the problem is that with how this is set up, the committee said last year they're not going to punish teams for losing in their conference championship games. So I always feel like especially the Big Ten and SEC, whoever loses in those games is most likely, most of the time, going to get the nod ahead of Notre Dame in the rankings.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily think is right, because last year I think there was an argument to be made between Notre Dame and Penn State.
Right.
And it didn't end up mattering anyway because we got to see them play. Better team won. But yeah, I mean, the Miami one is interesting. Carson Beck, coming off that, basically Tommy John surgery, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly. He just started throwing the football this week.
Wow.
And Miami has one receiver last year that's coming back this year that had over 100 yards, and it's a tight end.
Right.
So a lot of question marks. They have the talent to do it, but I just don't trust Mario Cristobal. And then Tennessee, I think they might be better without Nico, but CFP better? I don't know. Yeah. Anything? Were you going to add something, Phil?
No. But Dom in the comment section.
Here, I'll bring it up.
Oh
yeah.
There we go.
This is interesting, and it adds a little something because we could fly through these if not. But
absolutely.
Really quick, I like this. No bye weeks. I'm cool with that. I would personally like to see it go back to 4. I know that's not going to happen. If anything, we're going to get more games. But what do you guys think?
Let's see. What would I change of it? I agree with the no bye weeks. I would, you know what? Until the semifinals, have these games and this is going to be tough to do, but have these games on campus.
I like it.
They should be. The first 2 rounds should be on campus. They should be home games.
Right, because and let me post this or just posit this. Last season we saw, Oregon beat Ohio State in Eugene, right, in the regular season, and then the Rose Bowl comes around, they get mollywopped. And I'm not saying that result would have changed in terms of who won that game because the first one was very close, but Oregon and all of the top 4 seeds honestly kind of get punished in a way by not having an opportunity to have one of those home games, right? And if they do get that home game, maybe that is a different outcome. Maybe we see a better game, even at least, right?
Yeah. I do think with this whole, I do like it. I don't think they'll go to 8 teams. I think we'll get to 16 before we get to 8, just because there's too much money there. Right. And I do agree with the bye weeks. I think I kind of do think maybe the bye week thing is a little over exaggerated, just because it just happened to be the one year where we had 2 teams that had bye weeks that had no business getting bye weeks in Arizona State and Boise,
right.
Just because they won their conference championship. If you told me that Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and whoever else was in that, I think it might have been Penn State, got the bye weeks. If you think all 4 of those teams would have went 0-4, I don't think so.
I feel like I feel like, and Dom kind of touched on this also, saying that for those 4 teams, it's a month of not playing.
Yeah,
and that's not right. That shouldn't be. Like, it shouldn't take that long. All right, the first round of the playoffs should happen right after the last week of the season.
No doubt.
After the conference championships, and then right after then, you start playing.
Yeah.
I feel like you would get a more consistent kind of team if you just shorten that down to like a week or 2 weeks instead of it being a month. Because that's another issue I had, was how long it was in between the playoffs and the end of the season.
But I even another thing I would change. I would do the home games on campus, but only for the first 2 rounds. So first round, second round.
Yeah, only for the first 2 rounds.
Just because if it get to a point where you would have a team, if you wanted to do it all the rounds besides the national championship, you could have a team like Alabama go on the road 3 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I that might be, they put themselves in that spot, be a higher rating seed if you don't want to do that. But
another thing that I would be interested in is reseeding.
Reseeding, yeah. I think that's something they got to look at.
At each round.
Yeah.
At each round.
Mm.
And that's just based off of the teams left. So it kind of like what come on. I'm trying to remember would Division II do that? I think Division II does that.
What, the
reseeding?
I believe FCS, yeah, they do.
Yeah, FCS does.
It's weird because it's like,
I just think we'll have better matchups.
Right.
I do think that the reseeding is another thing that's kind of exaggerated because of the Oregon thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If Oregon wins that football game,
Oregon
nobody's
was really punished for winning the Big Ten.
But if we're being honest, it's not Oregon's fault that Ohio State shit the bucket again against their big brother Michigan the final week of the season. So because Ohio State was not a normal 9 seed.
Not at all.
Let's be honest a little bit. Like, Oregon can say, well, we had to play the national champion in our first game in the playoff. It's like, luck of the draw, man. Blame Ohio State for losing to Michigan.
The point was that they went that long without playing a game, where Penn State was rewarded for losing.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, Texas was too.
Huh?
Texas and Penn State were both rewarded. They got the easier paths. Georgia got knocked out played Notre Dame their first game, and Oregon played Ohio State. Meanwhile, Texas and Penn State got Clemson and SMU.
And Boise State.
Boise State.
Boise State, SMU, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. But getting back to this, I do think this is interesting because just like I said, we talked about, if you did do the on the road games and the home conference games, you could see Alabama play in a whiteout.
That would be amazing, right?
And then you're telling me that wouldn't be good for the game.
I will tell you right now, though, Fox would. Oh no, ESPN has the contracts for the CFP, right?
The CFP, yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we could see that. Yeah.
That's right.
You just say make it a big noon game.
Because Fox would mess that up 1,000%. That would be a noon kickoff.
Right. They would make Army and Georgia.
That's the worst thing that's happened to the Big Ten ever. Just
they signed their souls over to Fox, honestly. And a lot of Ohio State fans are upset about it. Garrison was on today on Johnny Odin's channel talking about that. It's not necessarily that people tune in at noon. They get good at ratings and all that. Yeah. But it kind of hurts recruiting on a level, and just for atmosphere and for fan purposes, it's good to see those primetime games sometimes. But yeah,
I do wonder, like, because I've always this whole thing I never understood this, and Phil could maybe give me more insight in this on this big noon stuff. I know there's probably a reason why Michigan Ohio State has always been a noon kick, but I've always thought that's a game that should be played 7:30 at night every single time. And I get why it was, because if I remember correctly, Michigan didn't have lights for night games at a certain point.
That was like a thing in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, so I get why, but you can't. Oh, could you imagine Ohio State, Michigan in the big house at night?
Dude,
it would be incredible. But I also think they do that, especially now that they've introduced alcohol into these stadiums, right?
Oh, yeah.
It would probably be bad a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah, you get like all day of drinking, and then you got Ohio State and Michigan. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don brings up a good point there. 2006, it was a night game in Columbus.
Too many arrests?
Too many arrests.
Oh, jeez.
Too many arrests due to drink.
Oh, all right. Let's
behave yourselves. What's the problem?
Oh my god! All right, let's get to Josh's real quick, because Josh has some explaining to do. Because Josh somehow forgot one of the biggest brands.
So Notre Dame doesn't exist.
Yeah,
they don't make it. Yeah, Texas Tech's wild, ain't it?
It is wild.
All right. So this is chaotic, and I love it. All right, because Notre Dame is going to fall off the face of the earth. Dude, they're going to lose 2 ACC games, and they're going to lose one of their USC?
USC, Texas.
They're losing that one too, buddy. They're going to go 9-3. Nobody's going to consider them for the playoffs. All right. And instead, you got Tulane sitting there at 11-1, squeezing in at 12. All right. Number 1, Ohio State. They're going to reload. I'm not worried about them. They might lose to Michigan, but I think they're going to win their conference this year.
Who goes through?
I got Ohio State number 1, Texas number 2. I think Texas is going to win the SEC this year.
Okay.
And then number 3 is odd. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on.
Yo, this is clearly Ryan Day.
Just for men. Absolutely.
Ryan Day for sure.
Just for men.
You're gonna sit here and tell me that his beard was graying 3 years ago and last year it's brown?
Right.
Get out of here. Get out.
Hey man, maybe he was using Bosley.
I tell you what, man, it's Mark Stoops is wearing hats more and more nowadays. It's gone. All that stress. Woof.
Yeah.
Oh nope.
Right.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so the interesting thing is obviously the Notre Dame. When I was putting this list together, I thought Josh was rage baiting. Like I legitimately thought this man was trolling, and I he legitimately believes Texas Tech is going to be that good.
Josh,
I was going to say this one's tough. You know what's here that doesn't really belong? What's on here that doesn't really belong?
The birds with teeth.
Oh, see, it's funny that Phil said Louisville because Nebraska's underneath them.
Yeah,
that's the real one. That's
this whole Nebraska. Josh. I'm concerned about your list here, man.
Nebraska's going to be back. I'm telling you guys, it's happening this year.
Listen. I am with you. I'm not one to sleep on Nebraska. I think they got some talent over there. If Raiola is going to be the quarterback that they thought he was going to be, it's probably going to start this year, right?
I think he takes that step this year.
Yeah,
I really do.
And usually that's like the biggest growth time is between your freshman and sophomore years. A lot of the time, OSU bums, you know it. Shout out to the maniac. All right. So number one, let's start with OSU. You got them number one. I'll save mine, but I don't have them that high. Let me just say that.
That's okay.
Then there's Texas Tech, brother. Texas Tech.
That's terrible.
Is wild to me, but I digress. They are spending a lot of money. I will say this. They're recruiting very well right now and spending a lot of money. So there's that.
Yeah.
No, LSU, I will say I wrestled with LSU, but then I looked at that schedule and I was like, there's no way Brian Kelly's going to get through this thing unscathed.
I'm telling you, brother.
Brian Kelly is going to Brian Kelly. All right.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He might do a Brian Kelly postseason, but he's going to win a lot of those games.
Okay.
He's done a lot of work through the portal. He's got a lot of good players.
He does,
on that team.
and he's got some talent through recruiting high school kids too. He's got a lot of talent. I'm not going to hold.
I'll tell you what.
Hold that
you won't be able to play defense against that LSU team. You won't be able to kick the ball off to that LSU team. Guess who they got in the transfer portal? Barryon Brown.
Oh yeah.
It's man, I hated losing him.
And then Tulane, Louisville is really the one though. I just don't believe in them.
So the struggle for me,
I lost a lot of money betting Louisville last year.
Well, the struggle for me here, right, was the 3 ACC teams. All right,
right.
It was tough because how do you argue that like a Clemson, Miami? Clemson comes out on top. That's what I think is going to happen for the ACC championship.
Especially because they all play each other. I believe they all three play each other.
Yeah, they do. And so that's why it's going to be really tough. Like say Louisville beats Clemson, but then Clemson beats Miami and Miami beats Louisville. Then you have just a whole circle of suck there. There's a lot of weird stuff that's happening here. But I think what this shows is this is going to be a good season. And I don't think it's going to be chalk. So Texas Tech there, I got them winning a lot of games. A couple that I had to give them because there's honestly, but for the sake of argument, probably not. But name someone else who's got Texas Tech in number 3. LSU, I think they got a lot of good parts. Alabama, I think they're down this year, but somehow they'll squeak in. Because they'll get in over someone way more deserving, and it's bullcrap. Georgia, notice where I've got my SEC teams ranked: 2, 6, 11, and 9. So, kind of a down year for the SEC as a whole.
Again?
Yeah, and you know what? I don't even know if Georgia would make it.
This is what I love.
Oh
no, you got 3. Okay, I was gonna say. You got 3.
Like pick one of those and replace it with Notre Dame.
Come on, bro.
Nuts. This guy's awesome. We need him on. Utah State. Hey, I'm here for McNeese.
McNeese is good.
But no, I've got Tulane. I think that they have the pieces there. They have a really stingy defense, and I think that they got a lot of guys coming back from last year from that. They could go 10-2, 11-1 in the season. That's why I've got Tulane up there. And their 11-1 could be a loss to LSU or Army.
I feel like a good like because you talked about 3. You didn't have to pick 3 ACC teams. You could have picked a certain team that wears the blue and gold. And plays Miami.
9-3 don't get you to the playoffs, Notre Dame.
I do think it's interesting. Phil went a little easy on the Nebraska one. I didn't realize this was 1990 anymore.
Texas is back. Why can't Nebraska be back?
I didn't realize Tom Osborne, was back
Tommy Frazier, all those guys.
So that's an interesting one. I've been soiled on Nebraska because I've bought into the Nebraska hype the last couple of years.
We're back.
Imagine that.
And they let us down. I do think the funniest game on this, is the potential first round, got to be Georgia Miami. the Carson Beck situation.
Yeah.
Georgia, Miami. That would be.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. That'd be
great.
absolute cinema, man.
Cinema.
Like
yes,
cinema. Yeah, cinema. Yeah. All
Cinema.
right. Cinema.
Cinema. Like grammar used to make.
Right.
All right. Let's get to
I'm glad we
Phil's.
can pick mine apart. Now we get to look at the serious ones.
Yeah. Drugs are bad, kids. All right.
All right.
Drugs are bad. Bourbon's good.
Here's mine. I also left a prominent program off here, right? The defending national champs don't make the CFP. In my.
Oh no! Oh no!
Why you got group of 5 champ up there? Who did
I was about to say, who is it, Phil? Who's it?
You gotta have a group of 5 champ for the CFP.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You
had Illinois there.
All right.
Oh, Phil.
Yeah. All right, so you're right. I didn't have a group of 5 team.
We're not talking about AP rankings. We're talking about CFP rankings.
Right, that's fair. So yeah, just throw a group of 5 in there for me.
Just throw a group of 5 in there for them.
Just do a spin a wheel, you get Memphis.
Either way, Michigan moves on. Now I'm just kidding. All right.
Spun a wheel, and
did I have Michigan at number 5? Seriously?
Are you sure? Hold on. Ryan, are you sure about this?
He had Notre Dame at 4, but Notre Dame can't be a top 4 seed. So
no, wait. Did you look at my other one?
Oh, he sent you one. Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a certified blooper moment.
Ryan, you might be right because I don't know. Like, yeah. Here we go. I got Notre Dame at 5, bro.
Yeah. So you had Michigan ahead of him. Michigan can't be in the top 4. So what I did.
Why can't Michigan be in the top 4?
Because you can't. It has to be conference champs. As of right now, it's set. It's safe.
You don't think
that's true?
So what I did is I did it.
You don't think that? No, yeah, because Oregon's ranked up. Damn.
Yeah.
So I did.
Somehow this is worse. This is a worse list than mine.
It is.
No, it's not. It's not that bad. So what I did was I took the highest rated Big 12 team that Phil had, which was Colorado, and assumed that meant they were winning the Big 12. So I put them where they would have been ranked, and then ranked accordingly from there.
This is good. All right. So now that because I've broken the rules like all Michigan men do.
At least you can admit it.
Right.
Hey, Stallion, is that you?
Right.
Phil got himself impose a 2-game bowl ban.
Exactly.
Hold on, I have Phil's manifesto here.
So look, my bracket is completely destroyed now. But anyway, LSU, I did go ahead and put LSU in there, and I have them against Miami, which wasn't the thing, but now I'm having to work this on the fly. All right. So, yeah, Miami, I do think gets just squeaks in. Harvard, this is my top 12. Hey, bro.
Harvard up there.
Hey, look at number 10. Look at number 10.
Burger King Tech.
That's good.
I can't believe you're.
That's great.
Popeyes University.
Man was hot today. You talk about Maniac in the thing today. All right, but anyway, Georgia, again, another team barely getting in, according to me. I like Penn State. I like Penn State a lot, in fact. And I almost put Penn State ahead of Michigan here, but I looked at Michigan's schedule and there's just no. I know I'm being a homer and I got to stop that a bit. But if Michigan beats Oklahoma, it really is wide open. And even if they lose to Oklahoma, which I have them losing to Oklahoma, it becomes it's kind of a who's who of nobody.
What week do they play Oklahoma?
Week 2.
So they might have a quarterback that's uninjured.
They might have a quarterback that's uninjured, and a guy that can complete the forward pass. Let's start there. But
that's
yeah,
you guys have a guy that can complete a forward pass.
That's a thing.
Wait a minute, you guys are allowed to throw the football more than 5 yards now?
Right.
When was this a thing? Man, see, Michigan can throw the ball. See,
Yeah. I do like Notre Dame. I'm giving Notre Dame a lot of credit here. I like Notre Dame coming into this year. I think Jeremiah Love is fully in the Heisman race already. He'll be a Heisman favorite to start the season. Outside of that, though, man, stop liking Penn State a lot.
Frames Janklin is wild.
15. Will only let you down. Listen, I know you know they did last year too. I bet that they would win the Big Ten championship. Obviously, lost my money. I bet that they would beat Notre Dame, and they should have. And I lost my money. But yeah, I do have to stop believing in James Franklin because he for sure will James Franklin.
Man, I hate that.
Speaking of James Franklin, did you guys see the clip of him crashing out on a fan at spring ball?
That's like a tradition now at Penn State games. Him crashing out on the fans.
It's not a good sign when your coach is crashing out on.
I do like that. Phil gave Michigan the Group of 5 champ, even though that was not originally intended.
It wasn't.
So Michigan will have basically a cakewalk to college football playoff semifinals.
We're in the semifinals, right?
I do think it's like Texas is getting punished again for winning the SEC by getting to have to face Georgia, most likely. I do think we get the Catholics versus Mormons, which is
that's
funny.
What are we going to call that? The schism?
That's good. That is good.
That's going to be a fantastic game.
That's like the Crusade. They got to call that like the.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out who God's side is really on.
What is going on? Right. Jesus himself has to flip the coin for this one. Crazy.
And then you got obviously Miami, LSU. We'll get into mine here in a little bit, but
Miami, LSU, the battle for the dirty South.
I don't believe in either one of those teams personally. To me, Brian Kelly is a coach that'll get you.
No. Say it right, Ryan. Say it right. You don't believe in any of those coaches.
I don't believe in any of those coaches.
There you go. Because the teams are solid. It's the coaching.
Yeah. I'm still in wait and see mode. And then Penn State, I don't actually think that Phil's too high on Penn State compared to where a lot of people are. The amount of people that have Penn State as the number 1 team in the nation preseason is ridiculous.
Where are they?
Absolutely. All over.
But if you look at their schedule, bro, it's fair. All they have to do now, granted, this is a bit. This is
all they have to do.
All they have to do
James Franklin.
Not James Franklin.
All he has to do is not get stuffed in a locker by Ryan Day in Ohio State again.
That's going to happen, though.
Right, which is why, on my list, they do avoid that.
Brother. So just taking, what else can I comment on this that I haven't already said? You got the battle for the dirty South. You've got Mormons versus Catholics. Catholics got a new pope, and he's pissed.
What
I thought that was hilarious. Georgia, Penn State. Georgia's going to continue their tradition of whooping up on Big Ten mid-majors. You got Michigan, who hopefully doesn't get like a Cincinnati or something in there. It's going to be tough. No, you guys will be all right. Apparently, the Big 12 blew up, and the only 2 teams left were Colorado and BYU. Texas is on top again. I guess they're back. Clemson clawing their way to the top of the ACC. I hope they don't lose to Virginia. And Oregon looking to line up to another disappointing round 2 loss to whoever's the raunchiest Southern Gulf Coast versus Atlantic Coast. Awful people. Just 2 sides of a horrible panhandle. That's going to be. So,
yeah.
This would be a very entertaining bracket. It'd be a little chalky and a little bit of a shit show, in my opinion. But I tell you what, Vegas would love this.
Yeah.
Vegas and ESPN would love this. ESPN would be, oh my God, there'd be so many different names for so many different games.
Dude, I'm still trying to figure out what the name would be for Notre Dame BYU.
Notre Dame,
Like,
I told you. We'll
like
call
the
it
battle of, the schism.
the schism.
The schism is crazy.
All right. We'll get to my final one, and then we'll get to the new college football playoff for what's proposed. So this one is probably, depending on who you ask, this is more chalk, I'd say. From
Whoa.
Yeah. I have completely different.
Hold up. Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead and let me have your thoughts.
4 SEC teams. No Alabama, no LSU.
4 Big Ten teams.
4 Big Ten teams.
Neither of which is Michigan.
Neither. That's right. Neither of which. Let's see. We got Oregon, Penn State, Illinois, and Ohio State. Wild.
Bro, this is disrespectful.
It's kind of nuts. Memphis, I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it. Memphis getting in there. Solid football team.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. You got Georgia winning the SEC, looks like.
Yeah.
When they're supposed to be having a down year, but we don't know. That's a big question mark. Can Mike Bobo prepare an offense? The world may never know. Texas A&M, dude. Mike Elko taking the Aggies in year 2?
Something Jimbo Fisher could never do.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Especially since they can't beat Missouri.
They did beat Missouri.
They beat the crap out of Missouri. Sorry about that. They lost to Notre Dame. That's good fun.
Yeah.
Ohio State not being the best team in the Big Ten, I can see it. Illinois getting in is kind of nuts.
Their schedule. They have Indiana's schedule this year.
Easy. So are we looking at like maybe an Indiana kind of?
Yeah, they had the same exact schedule as Indiana last year.
My God.
Yeah.
Jesus. Anyways, Notre Dame there. So the battle for the state of Illinois.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if you'd call it that.
Whoops.
Hey, I think the Illini can give you guys. They can give some problems. They can present some problems.
They can do it. Well,
I do think it's ironic that we, especially Notre Dame and the Midwestern teams are like, yeah, man, let's get these home playoff games, get the SEC teams to play up in the cold. Meanwhile, Notre Dame's like, Indiana?
Hey, I'll tell you what.
What advantage do we have?
I'll tell you what. Illinois needs to put like an N in front of their jersey. That'll work. That'll get them rattled.
Right.
South Carolina's nuts. That's crazy. We're talking about a team that's projected a 7. They're over under for wins this season is 7.5. That's nuts. But I got to respect the balls to put them up there. They do have a crazy good edge rusher who's going to be a sophomore this year. Dude was insane as a freshman. He's 17 years old. He's tearing up these D-lines. Dude is a freak. He's going to have a long career in the pros, I'm telling you. Let me look him up.
So really quick, so Marmar, I'm not picking Memphis over Michigan, but you have to pick one G5 team because they get that auto bid.
Mm-hmm. So
I just went with Memphis. So it wasn't Memphis over Michigan. When I was doing this, I had Michigan on the outside looking in that 13-14 spot. I think, in my opinion, Michigan is just 1 year away because I think, especially if you're expecting Bryce as a true freshman to go out and, I think he has to play really fucking good to get Michigan to the playoff. And I think him by the end of the year. You give him one season, and then next year I think Michigan will be right back into playoff participating for the Big Ten championship. I just think it's a lot to ask for a true freshman quarterback to come in and immediately do that. But yeah, what were you saying, Josh?
Hold on. Sorry, guys. This is.
Josh is unprepared.
Oh my gosh! No, I have a horrible memory. All right. All right. We'll revisit that. Anyways, I'll remember his name.
Yeah, Marbar, these are just like for fun. This is just like because everybody's doing post-spring CFPs and rankings. So we're just kind of giving our own.
Hey, don't explain yourself to Marmar. Marmar,
chill. Come on, man. We don't need to do that. Hey, Marmar, go watch the beginning of the stream. Get out of here with that.
Marmar didn't. Marmar, did you see this man's CFP?
Yeah. I think that was at like, what, 10, 15 minutes ago? Go look at that. Yeah, suck on that rain making it.
That's crazy, bro.
Right, not on my show.
Oh
No.
So, Phil, what are your thoughts on the list? Because I haven't really got your feedback yet.
I'm surprised that you have Notre Dame at 6. I'm thoroughly shocked at the Illinois pick. I didn't think you would have them in there. South Carolina is another one I wrestled with. I wanted to put them in there, but their schedule's worse than LSU's, in my opinion. And I don't think they're going to make it through it.
Hey, just a reminder, though, they were 2 personal foul penalties away from being, what, 9
in the playoff last year.
10-2, 9-3.
They would have been 10-2 and in the playoff.
They would have been 10-2, yeah. But unfortunately, those personal fouls cost them 2 games.
And I like their quarterback. They got a young quarterback too that's really good.
Sellers.
Yeah.
They've got some good receivers outside. I mean, that's one of the reasons I really struggled with put them in there, but I just didn't like their schedule. I didn't like their schedule at all compared to other team schedules. Ohio State at 8. I think Ohio State can lose 4 games this year. They're breaking in a new quarterback. Julian Sand, for all the hype of what he's supposed to be, he is new. It's gonna be a test. They got great receivers. They always do, though. So we'll see what happens there. Texas A&M is a bit shocking to me because I'm assuming you have them losing to Notre Dame. No, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right. They play South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. So
I have them beating South Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. Which then brings us back to South Carolina, because then you have Georgia in here, who South Carolina also plays.
Yep.
Right? So
and I have Georgia beating South Carolina, but then I have South Carolina beats Clemson again.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the thing is, so I got a lot of criticism for the Texas A&M and South Carolina stuff because of the schedules.
Yeah.
And I explain to people online, I'm like, where I'm coming from is I think the SEC is going to be exactly what it was last year in terms of there's not that one team that is above the rest. I think you've got 7 really good teams that I think just beat each other up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that opens the door for South Carolina or A&M that might have tougher schedules. But I feel like the thing with A&M is one of their losses is to a non-conference opponent.
Right.
They had 3 losses last year heading into the Texas game. And if they would have beat Texas, they would have played for the SEC championship with 3 losses. So just because Notre Dame
how the conference shaked out. not
and I
necessarily
think
because they were that much better.
Well, and also the fact that they had one loss that was out of conference, so it didn't affect them in terms of SEC standing.
Yeah, instead of like LSU having their losses or Ole Miss having their loss.
But with this, I have an A&M Georgia SEC championship game, or not A&M Georgia, Texas Georgia,
Georgia SEC championship.
Yeah, and I have Texas having those 2 losses again because they played Georgia twice. Right. I have them losing to Georgia twice again this year. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, Illinois, like I said, the schedule. Memphis was just kind of like a group of 5 teams you could go any which way. So just kind of, I trust Memphis because they got a borderline 5-star quarterback last year, and Antoine Hill. They got FedEx money over there now. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
No doubt.
All right, let's get to this final thing. The new playoff format in terms of seeding and how the buys will work that's been proposed. The NCAA, or not the NCAA, the College Football Playoff Committee is thinking about moving to a straight seeding model. This was reported by CBS Sports just a couple days ago. Here, I'll pull it up. And this would mean this would eliminate automatic buys for conference champions. In its place, the top 4 ranked teams in the final CFP rankings would receive the first round buys. This means the teams could get a bye regardless of if they win their conference or not. The CFP administrators would have to approve this proposal, and that could happen within this next month. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you like it? Think it's bad for college football? Do you think this makes college, conference championship games more meaningless? How do you guys look at this?
All right. So how I feel about this is I don't think it devalues conference championships as much as they've already been devalued with the 12-team playoff, but I could definitely see, like, for instance, right, the Big 12 champ. Does this mean they're not guaranteed to get in?
Yep.
So like, let's say the Big 12 champ comes in and they're ranked 14th. Oh, well, too bad, Big 12. You weren't good enough this year. Like, I feel like that's going to upset more people than, and to be fair, they're Big 12 fans. They're used to being upset. But I feel like that's going to upset more people than it would really appease. Because the only teams you're really appeasing here, and the only fan bases you're really appeasing here are like the Notre Dames and the Alabamas and all these other teams that may not make their conference championship because they got to play 10 conference games, and it's the SEC or it's the Big Ten. Yeah. And say they don't make their conference championship, but they're definitely one of the best 12 teams in the country, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like where we had Alabama last year, right? Alabama didn't make the playoffs because of a straight seeding. Ole Miss didn't make the playoffs because of a straight seeding, because of the guarantees.
Yeah.
And does this eliminate the Group of 5 guarantee?
Yeah, I do think, and this is where it gets to the Notre Dame and teams in the SEC. I personally think the SEC and the Big Ten love this, right? Because that just means it's more ability for them to get their hands in the cookie jar and get more teams in.
They could get 6 teams in.
Yeah,
they could be half the playoff.
I almost wonder. There was an article that came out from I want to say it was Pete Thamel or Pete Nakos. About the Big Ten and the SEC, they're in that partnership where the plan is in the future, it's going to be a Big Ten SEC ran CFP with automatic amounts of teams for each conference. If we go to 16, it'll be 5 for the Big Ten, 5 for the SEC, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12, and then 2 at large, which then leaves a spot for Notre Dame. To me, this is just more of us getting set up to where the Big Ten and the SEC are going to control the sport of college football going forward, and especially the CFP, which depending on who you ask, could be a bad thing. Depending on who you ask, could be a good thing. I do agree with Marmar in the comments that this would create a more entertaining playoff because you're not going to have Boise State, who, don't get me wrong, Boise State was a great team last year. They had no business getting a bye. Like, they couldn't play on the same field as Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would avoid that. And I do think it benefits Notre Dame the most because this just gives Notre Dame more of a reason to not join a conference because conference championships don't matter. Basically, because if conference championships don't matter, why should Notre Dame join a conference?
Right.
And but I also do think that if we go to this model, you're going to see teams not schedule as hard of games out of conference.
Of course.
Because it's just like, you go undefeated, but I get to play, Burger King Tech.
Hold on.
FCS Northeast.
I think the inverse is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is they're going to schedule more conference games. They're going to be like, well, losses don't matter that much since, say you're in a strong conference, your losses don't matter as much. Especially if, a third of the conference makes the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this sounds more SEC friendly because I know during the initial 12-team playoff thing that the Big Ten, who was trying to force the hand of Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
To join the conference, preferably the Big Ten, is the reason that Notre Dame can't get a top 4 seed now, right?
Yep.
That's the Big Ten basically pushing that. But now the SEC, in an effort to keep the Notre Dame out of the Big Ten, because that really swayed. If Notre Dame went to either one of those conferences, right? If Notre Dame decided, hey, we're going to go to the SEC, which doesn't make any sense, but let's just hypothetically say
they should go to the Big Ten or the ACC.
Right. If they did that, that would swing the SEC would have all the cards, right? In terms of, we call the shots, right? And if it went the other way, then the Big Ten would have the same. We call the shots. But I do like the straight seeding. I'm okay with that. I feel like that's a good idea. And at the same time, if that happens, why are we playing conference championship games?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. It makes no sense now to play a conference championship.
It would be ceremonial at best.
Exactly.
You would see teams probably sell.
We go back to the days of shared championships if we have the same record or whatever and didn't play, whatever. But yeah.
I do, and I agree with what Phil said. I do think that this could just be a power play from the SEC, because I think the Big Ten and SEC have kind of been trying to stay in goodwill with Notre Dame because that's the last big fish, that in the market, and they know, like Phil said, the amount of money, the extra revenue, the conference deals, the TV viewership. All of that would immediately skyrocket, and it would be way more than the team. Like if the Big Ten didn't get them or the SEC didn't get them,
right? And
it would create an unbalance between the conferences in terms of money, revenue, competition. I think if Notre Dame were to join the SEC, SEC is a better conference. Notre Dame joins the Big Ten. Big Ten's a better conference. But again, I think this is I could see where Phil's saying this is just a goodwill thing. But I just worry, like Phil said, if we still play conference championship games, you'll have teams purposely lose some point in the season to avoid playing in that game, or you'll have teams purposely lose because it's like if you're an undefeated Oregon, right, and I'm playing Penn State that already has a loss, I don't need to win the conference championship. My goal is to win the national championship. You know, you ask Ohio State fans, you give a shit that you didn't wear the Big Ten? Nah. We won a natty. Who cares? That's where we're headed as a sport.
I think there's still gonna be that no, we want to hit, we want to win. I mean, this kind of leads to this comment. Put this up here. No, we want to go undefeated in the regular season. We want to win the conference championship, and we want to win the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still something that, to my knowledge, only one team has done.
That was Michigan, right?
No.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 teams then.
Yeah.
I forgot Michigan.
Was it Clemson?
Is LSU?
Clemson did it? Oh, yeah.
LSU
didn't Clemson do it as well?
They did what now?
Didn't Clemson win the
Did they do? Was it during the 14 playoff?
Hold on.
Yeah.
But doing what?
Hold on. Win their win the regular season conference title.
Okay.
The conference championship game, and win the national championship all in the same year. I believe Clemson did it.
LSU did that, right?
LSU did it. Michigan did it.
Alabama did it the following year, no?
Did
they go undefeated or
Mac Jones and them? Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah. Okay. I mean, hold on. We already have 4 times.
I don't think with the 12 team. I don't.
You don't think it'll happen with the 12 team? You think
this might be a hot take? I don't think we will ever see a team win their conference in the regular season, win their conference championship, and win a national championship just because of the toll, the amount of games that you have to play. You would play more games than most of the other teams in the field. And that we saw with the bye week, that can fuck you up and get you out of rhythm. I just think that we're at a stage now, especially once you get to 16. I don't think we will ever see a team do what Michigan, Clemson, Alabama, and other teams did in the past. I don't. Yeah. And LSU, I don't think we'll ever see it again.
I think it'll happen. Just statistically, it's going to happen. Now, with NIL and everything, it makes it way different. But I don't know, man. Because
you just don't have a team. Since NIL has been a thing, we've seen more parity in the sport than we ever have.
Absolutely.
You know why? Alabama can't just stockpile 5 stars.
Lamborghini.
Everywhere.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, Ohio State can't just sit there and keep every 5-star from the Midwest and not allow Michigan, Notre Dame, other teams in the Big Ten to get them. That, it's so hard to do it. I just don't. Look at Oregon last year. Oregon was the consensus best team in college football last year. What happened to them in the playoff?
Got destroyed.
They got stomped. Yeah.
So I just think that if we had a team like the 2021 Georgia, 2022 Georgia, 2024 Michigan, 2020 Bama, 2016 Clemson, I could see it because those teams were miles ahead of the field.
2019 LSU.
I just don't think that we'll ever see that big of a gap again.
It may not be that big of a gap, but there's going to be some team out there. It's just going to have the gumption to get it done. Like TCU a couple years ago. They weren't better than everybody they played.
Mm-mm.
They just pulled it out of there, and they got their asses kicked at the national championship. But I'm telling you, man, it takes a lot of luck and a whole lot of talent. But it'll happen. We're saying this, and then in a couple of years, some team's gonna rip something off Clemson or somebody.
Let me ask this question, and then we could get up out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think we will ever see an undefeated national champion?
Yeah.
Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
And that would just be all three of them would just an undefeated national champion can happen.
It's one thing to do it with losing like a game here or there, but I'm talking about just
now,
full out.
Is it?
Yeah.
You know who it would have to be? It would have to be a team that wouldn't make the playoffs otherwise. It would have to be a Notre Dame.
Well, they wouldn't get the conference championship then.
No. You wouldn't get the conference.
Oh, you said undefeated.
You said undefeated.
Oh, yeah, it's undefeated. Yeah, undefeated. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have to be a team like that because when you play that conference championship and everything else, say you have the record and you have everything up, blah blah blah. Everybody's going for your neck in your conference. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, how do I put it? Losses don't mean as much anymore as they used to. Yeah. They just don't. You've got more conference games. Half of the good teams in your conference are going to go to the playoffs. So, like, losing to a playoff team doesn't matter that much, especially if you're one of the playoff teams. It just, it doesn't mean as much as it used to win all your games. But you know who it still means that much to? To a Notre Dame or to a lower conference like a Big 12 team. That still means a lot to them because not a lot of them are going to make it to the college football playoff, if any at all, and they might be the only team to do it.
That's where I think Clemson, I'm sure you guys saw the news where Clemson and Notre Dame scheduled the 12-year scheduling agreement. I think that's part of why this for this reason, because it raises Clemson's strength of schedule. So
do you want a really sneaky hot take on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Clemson's going to leave the ACC. That's why they inked that deal.
Well, you know what else is another hot take, and it's most likely going to happen? This deal was struck because USC is going to back out of the Notre Dame rivalry. Like,
ooh, that's been another one.
That's
because hold on, Notre Dame's going to back out?
No, USC.
Oh yeah. I do think they are.
You know why, Josh? Because losing to the Golden Gophers.
Thinking Lincoln can't figure out a defense.
Hey, I had USC fans tell me, well, why would we play Notre Dame? Our schedule's already tough. I said, yeah, because Maryland.
Why would y'all ink that deal with Clemson and not Michigan, especially if you're going to lose that USC game?
I don't think
Phil, they lose to Michigan.
I'll be honest, Phil. Like, I don't know if the universities value that game as much as the fans do.
Really?
I'll be honest. Like, just getting the sense, I don't think Notre Dame and Michigan really have, like, in terms of just the guys up the top, have a hatred towards each other. I don't think that's something that they like. We're better off scheduling.
No,
Notre
absolutely.
Dame.
But what they do like is money, and that game is obviously
that's what I've been saying.
Money, right?
We're going to see a Notre Dame Clemson rivalry, Phil. We're going to see a Notre Dame and Clemson play 5 times before we see Notre Dame and Michigan play again.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I'll posit this because my team's in a different position than your all's teams.
Yeah.
So the SEC is talking about going to a 10-game schedule, a 9-game schedule is already happening. They're talking about going to a 10-game. That's bad for Kentucky. That's really bad for Kentucky because we're not a top program. We're on our best years, we're middle of the pack. So now what we have to do is we have to look at the Louisville rivalry. We have to look at, the MAC teams that we schedule and help their programs out by paying them millions of dollars to scare us in our own stadium. But like when it comes to like getting more conference games and scheduling tough opponents outside of conference, that's not good for Kentucky. Right. Kentucky football is already going to struggle to get to bowl eligibility this year. and now you're talking about, hey, let's take what would be Northern Illinois or
Don't say that
Chattanooga
name.
or what? Oh, I'm sorry, we actually beat Northern Illinois when we played them.
Good for you, Josh. All right.
Come on, bro.
I'm sorry. There's not a UK logo in the Boneyard. That's
Hey, there's an Alabama and Notre Dame logo in the Boneyard.
oh,
so.
I know. You guys can celebrate sucking, together. But that's just for these middle of the road programs. This is just another loss on the schedule.
That's where I've with USC doing it, which I think to me is still it's a pussy move in my opinion, because USC doesn't have the argument because their schedule outside of a Penn State and a play maybe Ohio State or Michigan, right? Or Oregon. The Big Ten as a conference is pretty manageable, but not manageable for USC because you lost to Minnesota and Maryland, which
Hey man, don't sleep on the Terps.
which Phil knows. Phil knows that Minnesota and Maryland are like the middle tier, bottom feeder. You can't beat those teams. You have no excuse. You're on mute, Phil.
You're over here struggling with Northwestern. You're gonna have a problem.
Yo, Maryland has potential, I feel like, but they're not there.
No.
You would never see Michigan lose to a Golden Gopher and then complain about how tough their schedule is. But no, that poses a question. Do we see other rivalries in the SEC? Do we see Florida stop playing Florida State? Do we see South Carolina stop playing Clemson?
Maybe.
What are some other ones?
Does Georgia not play Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
Because that's too low of a
no.
They're not that good. Why not? Why would
whoa. They almost beat us last year, Josh. All right. We might cancel this series.
But
might be catching it.
But does
what's another one?
I'm trying to
conference think. SEC. Kentucky, Louisville, obviously.
Yeah, Kentucky, Louisville. I
think that's it.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
And it's different because Ohio State and Michigan are in the same conference. But could you imagine if Michigan or Ohio State were to say, yeah, we don't want to play you guys anymore. Our schedule's too tough. It's ruining college football is what it's doing if you start seeing these rivalry games go away.
Right.
I agree.
But
hold on. Who does Tennessee's been taking shots at ACC teams past 4 or 5 years. This year they're going to play Virginia Tech week 1.
I hope they lose to Virginia Tech then.
Yeah, me too. But knowing Tennessee and Josh Heupel, they're going to be up 35 going forward on 4th down at the beginning of the 4th quarter.
Go for an onside kick.
Yeah, we're gonna beat the crap out of you for 60 minutes. You're gonna enjoy it.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's it that's all the topics for today. So Josh, do you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Do not hit that button until I say so.
Got you. All
right. Okay. Now for myself, Josh, at Bleak. Wow, that was awful. At Big Blue Mean on X. Find me, follow me, disagree with me on my crap takes. Go for it. For Ryan Fravel, at Fravel_Ryan on X. And for Phil, Maze Madman, you know where to find him. Go on and plug your X because
it's Maze Madman everywhere.
Is Maze Madman everywhere. All right. That is us. We are wrapping this up. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. We'll see you in 2 weeks.